up.
No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
Grace and I have some calamitous news to
What you
share
got?
with you right from the jump today.
All right, let's go.
Brutal news, tragic news. The type of news that just makes you wonder, how are we going to recover from this?
Is this actual news, or is this something you found in society that bugs the hell out of you?
Neither, actually. It is neither actual news nor something in society that bugs me. We have been accused of clickbaiting. The YouTube comment section has accused us of clickbaiting. And it is my fault, so I will go ahead and wear this one. But apparently after our Monday show, in the YouTube thumbnail, we had teased Seneca Driver talk, and then we actually never got around to talking Seneca Driver, which sometimes that's just how it goes on this show. Sometimes I start a show, to quote Michael Scott in a slightly modified sense here, sometimes I start a show and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it somewhere along the way. Actually, generally, that's more so what happens is I start a show thinking it's going one direction, and then it goes a completely different direction, and I don't bring it full circle by the end. So I'll take the blame on this one, folks. Not intentionally trying to clickbait any of you that tune in on a daily basis via YouTube, but we didn't talk Seneca Driver on Monday. I didn't realize we didn't talk Seneca Driver on Monday. We're going to talk Seneca Driver today. How about that? Amongst many other recruiting storylines over the course of the next hour here on Locked In. It's starting to feel like, and it's only late January, and we're probably going to hit a lull again in February, Grayson, but it's starting to feel like this show is going to get a lot more jam-packed in the weeks ahead as we prepare for junior days and a potential wave of commitments and all of the storylines, all of the narratives that come with the spring season on the recruiting trail.
Should be a lot of fun. I'll tell you what. You and I were talking beforehand about some of the guys that are going to be appearing at junior days here for Oklahoma, some of the targets and whatnot. And the fascinating part of all of this to me is going to be the numbers game. Because I think Oklahoma going forward has such an excellent pitch for a lot of guys. But when you look at the financials of all of it and you look at how many they bring in from one class to another, it's like, okay, how are we going to make all the numbers work with all of this? So this should be a fun couple of weeks.
405-651-3439 is how you check in with us via the text line and make your voice heard here on the show, which is brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno. Folks, Dorsey Jones is where you're going to want to head here in 2026 if you find yourself in the market for a new vehicle. Family-owned and operated, friendly service advisors, outstanding low-pressure sales environment. The people make the place at Dorsey Jones. And GMC, of course, offers some of the most reliable trucks and SUVs on the road today. So many reasons to make the drive out to El Reno and do business with Dorsey Jones. Cherokee Sooner, not sure if you all heard, but OU picked up a new recruit out of Illinois yesterday. His name is Roger Denny. Yes, indeed. I believe day one officially of the Roger Denny era. The Roger Denny regime at the University of Oklahoma is going to be February 15th. Wait, that's a Sunday. So I guess day one would be February 16th. First business day of the Roger Denny era will be February 16th. But as we unwind here on Locked In, got a lot of recruiting nuggets to discuss with all of you, and we will get to many of your texts throughout the show. I wanted to start with this one, though, because right off the top, we had a 405 listener hit us up, and as portal activity is winding down, it would appear the Sooners are all but finished in the transfer portal. And this 405 listener wants to know, does OU not getting another quarterback in the portal after losing Hawkins mean that they have confidence in Neubauer and or Jet New? Relying on Bo Bentley to be the backup quarterback seems risky, as he will be a true freshman. And I believe, maybe it wasn't this exact conversation that we had, but we discussed this maybe a week and a half ago or so. The reality that if you're going to go to the transfer portal for a backup quarterback, you're going to find one of two things. You're going to find options that are comparable to Whit Neubauer and Jet New, or you're going to find options that are superior, but that cost far more money than it makes sense to spend for a backup quarterback. It goes without saying that more often than not, you hope you don't have to play a backup quarterback. You hope your starter stays healthy all season long. Do you necessarily want to count on that? No. Do you want to have a guy that you feel can step in and fill the void if necessary? Yes. But recruiting a backup quarterback in the transfer portal era, Grayson, has become very difficult because it's such a narrow pool of candidates, if you will. You're looking for a guy like Malachi Nelson, for instance, a 5-star who's flamed out multiple times. Like, these are the types of options you have. It's a guy like that.
Wouldn't that be hilarious if they brought him in, too?
Penn State took a D3 kid to be their backup quarterback. A D3 one-year rental who was a stud at that level, but we're talking D3. So it's those guys, or it's the Malachi Nelsons of the world, or it's some other backup quarterback from some other program that has barely ever touched the field and has just kind of run out of leeway at his current institution and is looking for a change of pace. My point is, you're not going to substantially upgrade from Whit Neubauer or Jet New unless you're willing to spend probably north of $500,000, which just doesn't make a ton of financial sense.
I think their potential upgrade could be Bo Bentley. And that depends on how he looks when you get into fall camp, how he looks in terms of, is he ready to play college ball and be a QB2 on an SEC team? But to your point, no, you don't want to go play that sort of game. Your answer to it, if you want an upgrade, if you want an upgrade to your backup quarterback, that's going to come from a true freshman. It makes the most logistical sense. It makes the most financial sense as well. So we'll see what happens with Bentley once he gets onto campus.
It'll be an interesting battle. I could see Whit Neubauer breaking camp as your QB2. I could see Jet New breaking camp as your QB2. And I could very well see Bo Bentley breaking camp as Oklahoma's QB2. We shall see. What remains unquestioned is that QB1 is John Mateer. 405-651-3439 if you want to chime in and make your voice heard throughout the program. As we get started today, Grayson, let's talk tight ends. Let's talk tight ends in the 2027 class. I have it on good authority that later today, the coaching staff of the illustrious University of Oklahoma, namely Jason Witten and Ben Arbuckle, will be at Norman North High School to check in with 4-star tight end and local boy Ben Kolar, who has 20-plus offers, coast to coast, very highly coveted prospect, very talented prospect. As the voice of Norman North Athletics on krefsports.tv, I know none of this is news to you, but it would seem apparent, based on the activity of the Oklahoma staff to date in the contact period, that their priorities at tight end, the two guys they would most like to have, not the only two guys they would like to have, but the two guys they would most like to have, especially because of how their styles contrast, are Ben Kolar and the number one tight end in America, Seneca Driver, out of Boyle County, Kentucky. They have visited with him. As I mentioned, they will visit with Kolar today. And make no mistake, Oklahoma occupies the catbird seat in both of those recruitments. This is where we find out just how good of a recruiter Jason Witten is. If it feels like it should be a layup with Ben Kolar, right?
You would think.
It feels like that should be a layup with him being right down the road. And especially with Jaron Kanak having experienced the successful season that he did in 2025. Jaron Kanak has a lot of physical similarities to Ben Kolar, who's not very tall.
Yes.
About 6'2", but just a really good mover, really good all-around football player. So it feels like that should be the layup, and then the heat check, if you will, is the Seneca Driver recruitment. Oklahoma's well-positioned there and has been well-positioned there. 6'7", 230 pounds, absolute stud, two-sport phenom. He's a very talented basketball player as well. He took 2 unofficial visits to Oklahoma in season. And he will return. I do believe he will return. Do not quote me on this yet, because I myself need to confirm it. But the expectation is that he's going to return to Norman for the Future Freaks Junior Day on March 7th. If that happens, I would say that solidifies the Sooners as the front runner in the process. And I would argue they already are. But in terms of what is attainable for Jason Witten as a recruiter at the University of Oklahoma, which do you think is going to tell us more about what he's capable of? Is it landing the number 1 tight end in the country in Seneca Driver? Is it landing the absolute best of the best? Or does it just come down to winning the battles you ought to win at the University of Oklahoma and keeping Ben Kolar in his own city?
You know what? I'm going to shock you by saying neither of them.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why, here, I'm going to see if you can agree with the way I'm looking at this. I don't think Jason Witten has to be some master recruiter. Jason Witten just needs to walk into somebody's house and say, "Hey, my name's Jason Witten. You want to come? You want to come play for me?" I've never had, and I've said this ever since the news broke that he was going to be the tight ends coach. I don't think he's got to be some charismatic recruiter. I don't want to know about him as a recruiter. His name and his resume and what he did at the National Football League level is going to speak for itself. I want to know about Jason Witten, the coach, which is what brings me to both of these dudes. Because Seneca Driver has all the physical traits in the world. He looks like $1 million. He has all the talent in the world. Can you translate him from high school to college? And then in the case of Ben Kolar, you mentioned it. About 6'2", good mover around, blocks well, good catch radius, physical type of guy, good blocker. But now can you get an undersized tight end to be able to perform at the SEC level? So when I look at these two dudes, I'm not thinking about Jason Witten as a recruiter. Because Ben Kolar, you're right, is the layup. He goes to Norman North. Seneca Driver was blown away when he got a phone call, not from the OU tight ends coach necessarily, but from future Pro Football Hall of Famer Jason Witten. So to me, it doesn't really matter what he does as a recruiter because his name is going to speak for itself. I want to know, once he gets these dudes in his tight end room, what are they going to look like? Because they each have the talent, but they also have something that will leave you to question, all right, can a coach get them to be all SEC-type performers? And that's what I'm more interested in.
That take is earning rave reviews on the text line so far. And I do think you hit the nail on the head. That's the most important thing for Jason Witten is once you get the guys to campus, whoever they might be, can you get them performing at a high level? Can you get them performing at an all-SEC level? Can you get more out of the tight end room than Oklahoma has gotten in recent years? Frat Bro Mark on the text line says, Parker, you do realize that the term, quote-unquote, you should win doesn't apply anymore, a la Indiana and Texas Tech, right? I agree with you to an extent, Frat Bro Mark, but when you look at the circumstances of the Ben Kolar recruitment, I don't think it's difficult to regard that battle as one that Oklahoma still ought to win. It's not a process that's going to be heavily dictated by money. Oklahoma didn't drag their feet forever getting involved. They weren't his first offer, but they were by no means late to the table in getting involved. And he's a high-priority guy for the staff and for Jason Witten. He's also 5 minutes down the road. So all of those factors combined paint a picture that suggests to me that kid should wind up wearing crimson and cream. And maybe in the end he just doesn't want to, and if a kid doesn't want to, what can you do, right? But Oklahoma should be able to successfully sell Ben Kolar on the fit and the vision for him in his home city, especially with how receptive he has been to the Sooners' advances so far. A 918 listener asked, where would that leave us with Titus Hawk? I've never been quite sold on Oklahoma and Titus Hawk. He's visited quite a bit, but he's also a really good baseball player, and there are several other schools that are really, really hitting the two-sport angle hard with him. Oklahoma hasn't done that yet. And also, there's almost a sense of redundancy if you bring Titus Hawk into the mix and you already have Seneca Driver in the fold or trending nicely for him.
Because they're the same body type and size.
Precisely. Seneca Driver is 6'7", just like Titus Hawk. Ben Kolar is about 6'2". So it's not just about how talented the kid is, it's about how well he fits within the context of not only the position group, but the remainder of the class. And I think the fit with Seneca Driver and Ben Kolar, like, to me, that's the ideal outcome. Yeah. No disrespect to Titus Hawk or Zach Fairs or any of the other talented tight ends that Oklahoma's pursuing. But if you ask me which two I want, which two I would want if I was in Jason Witten's shoes, the answer is Seneca Driver and Ben Kolar.
I agree with that. Hey, one more before we go to break.
Yeah.
Bitcoin Cassandra on the YouTube chat, which, by the way, what?
Is this a Bitcoin bot? Is this what that is?
I don't think so. I mean,
okay,
it's a legit question.
If you're a real person, Bitcoin Cassandra, I apologize.
I don't know, but it's a good question. She or he, I have no idea, says this may be dumb, but do these young kids know who Jason Witten is? And to that, I would say Jason Witten didn't retire that long ago.
No, man. He retired when these kids would have been, what, 12?
12. You know what a good comp would be? Jason Witten is to these kids what Dallas Clark was to us.
There you go.
Where we kind of became conscious of football right around the time he was still really good, but on the downswing of his career. Mm-hmm. So I would say Jason Witten is what Dallas Clark was for you and I. So, yes, they will know Jason Witten.
405-651-3439 is the text line. Keep firing away. Did you get a funny comment on YouTube there? Is that what the laughter was about?
Yeah, Bitcoin Cassandra also replied, I'm not a bot, dude.
Okay. Anytime Bitcoin is involved, I think you can understand my skepticism, given how many Bitcoin bots are all over the internet these days.
The profile avatar, by the way, is Bitcoin.
Okay. Glad to know you're a real person, though, Bitcoin Cassandra. Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. We're going to hit a quick break, hear from our fine sponsors that make it all possible. Much more is ahead as we break down OU football and recruiting here with you on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. You're listening to Locked In.
Locked In is brought to you every day by Dorsey Jones GMC in El Reno. Dorsey Jones GMC is family-owned and operated with a knowledgeable, low-pressure sales staff here to help you through the buying process and half-price oil changes on Saturdays. Visit dorsey-jonesgmc.com for more information.
Have you or someone you know suffered a loss to your home or business from the recent storms? Before you accept a settlement, call Brown O'Haver at 405-735-5510. Brown O'Haver is a local-based company helping Oklahomans with claims since 1988 with preparation and expert analysis detailing your loss and insurance settlement. As your trusted consultant, Brown O'Haver can give you peace of mind and make sure you're getting what's yours. Call Brown O'Haver today, 405-735-5510, and make sure they're working for you.
Good times are calling your way at the Showplace Theater with acts like Eli Young Band, February 6th. Matt Matthews, February 14th.
I was pretending to smoke a cigarette with a Cheeto, and I would share it with my friends.
Dylan Gossett, February 20th. And Christopher Cross, February 28th. Riverwind is OKC's favorite casino experience.
Life is yours to spend. Spend it expanding your balance. Spend it expanding your mind. Spend it wondering what comes next. Spend it trusting that God has a plan. Spend it taking small steps in your own life. Spend it making a big impact on someone else's. First United Bank. Spend life wisely.
At Lander CDJR of Norman, it's the Start Something New sales event, starting the new year off with huge savings, like up to $15,500 off of MSRP, or get $9,000 off and 0% financing for 60 months on select new 26 Ram 1500 Bighorn trucks in stock. Or take up to $12,000 off of MSRP on select new 26 Ram 2500 Bighorns, and get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. Ram 1500 stock number TN169555 must finance with Stellantis Financial for 0% for well-qualified buyers. Ram stock number TG165779.
Gear up for the Trails Golf Club Winter Blowout Sale with 20% off all apparel. Short and long sleeve shirts, pants, shorts, rain gear, mid-layers, and outerwear. Need a new golf bag? Get $50 off any Titleist, Ping, Callaway, Sun Mountain, or OGO bag. You also get 20% off all accessories. Hurry into the Trails Golf Club in Norman, 3200 South Berry Road for incredible savings. Sale ends February 28th.
A public service announcement from Oklahoma Human Services. Hey Oklahomans, did you know updating your SNAP food benefits info is a SNAP? Have you changed jobs or hours? Has your monthly cost of housing changed? Have your household members changed? Maybe you've recently moved. If you're a recipient of SNAP benefits in Oklahoma, visit okdhslive.org to update your information. That's okdhslive.org. It's a SNAP, Oklahoma.
Somewhere there's a river rushing through the woods while someone rushes through their day. There's a mountain looking up at the sky while someone looks down at their phone. A trail waiting to be walked while someone waits for a latte. This world is full of somewheres waiting for someone just like you. So go see yours at 154 national forests and 20 grasslands. And to learn more, visit nationalforest.org. The National Forest Foundation. See your somewhere.
People are always looking to invest in a good opportunity. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change, called Better Futures. With your investment, it helps students like me go to college. My name is Charles, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
It's locked in here on the Ref. The Home Sooner fans, Parker Thune, Grayson Singleton with you on this fine Thursday. 405-651-3439 is how you can interact with us via the text line. Frisco Sooner has done just that. No offense, guys, he says, but I really could care less about what you guys in the industry think about how good a tight end is. No, I want to see how good Jason Witten's evaluations, i.e. the future NFL Hall of Famer, are when selecting a tight end. And that goes strictly back to recruiting. Who he sees as a tight end he wants, that's what I want to see. Well, inconvenient truth here, Frisco Sooner. Jason Witten is not going to be playing C-tape offer prospect at the University of Oklahoma because that's not how it works anymore. Jim Nagy and the Oklahoma front office, those guys have a say. And so if Jason Witten likes a kid, but the front office doesn't like him, obviously there's going to be some conversation that ensues there, but I can't imagine Oklahoma is going to make the move because, as Jim Nagy has said many a time when interviewed about this particular topic, the hierarchy of power within the Oklahoma organization, he said, look, there are enough players out there that we're not going to pursue a kid that we aren't 100% in agreement on pursuing. So it's not just who Jason Witten likes. And it's not only does Jason Witten like this kid at tight end, it's does the front office like him as well? Is everybody in that room on the same page as far as pursuing a given player?
It's almost like a draft war room at this point. It's a big collaboration. And also, and I like it, though, to be quite honest with you, because it takes something off of the position coaches' plates. They can focus more on being coaches and don't have to unilaterally make decisions on offering and recruiting and communicating and all of that. So I kind of like how they've divvied this up now in this new era.
A 918 listener wants to know, did the kid from Arizona commit today? I believe you're referring to 4-star wide receiver Zarek Sidney. He did commit today, and mentioned this on Tuesday that this was the expectation, but he did commit to Washington. So, chose Washington over Oklahoma and over Arizona State. OU looked to be nicely positioned there for a while, but Washington had been the trend as of late, and the Huskies get it done. It'll be interesting to see how the wide receiver picture shakes out for Oklahoma in the 2027 class, because you don't really get the impression that Damari DeJear's going anywhere, the outstanding 4-star speedster from Pacific Palisades, California. But Trayvon Hall, man, Oklahoma's other wide receiver commit out of Tuscaloosa Central. I mean, SEC coaches are swinging through the doors one after another to visit with Trayvon Hall. John Summerall, the head ball coach at the University of Florida, was there today, as was former Oklahoma interim wide receivers coach LaDamian Washington, who now coaches the receivers at Ole Miss. So, man, that's going to be a white-knuckle battle for Oklahoma through official visit season to hang on to Trayvon Hall. Can it be done? Absolutely. Would I be overwhelmingly confident that that commitment sticks? No, it's hard to be. It's really hard to be, especially when Alabama, I mentioned Florida, mentioned Ole Miss, didn't mention Alabama yet. Alabama just offered last week, and they are right there in the kid's backyard. I mean, right there. A 316 listener, that's the state of Kansas, says, you guys talked about Kanek not being a good blocker. If Kolar is similar to Kanek, why are you so high on him? Is it just because his older brother killed us? Okay, look. You got to understand, sometimes we make these comps in terms of physique as opposed to who they are as a player. And I felt I was explicit about it. Maybe I wasn't. If so, that's on me. But I felt as though the way I phrased it was just trying to make it clear. Ben Kolar is physically similar to Jaren Kanek. As far as their styles of play, though, Ben Kolar is what you would get if you made Jaren Kanek just a tick slower. Jaren Kanek's really freaking fast.
Yes.
Ben Kolar can run. Very few tight ends can run like Jaren Kanek can run. If you made Jaren Kanek a tick slower and a way better blocker.
And I mentioned that
yes.
Ben Kolar can block.
That's Ben Kolar. Ben Kolar can block, and he is willing to block. He does not mind getting his hands dirty.
You know, also, another parallel to Jaren Kanek, Ben Kolar played a little linebacker this year, too.
He did.
With Norman North.
He did. Legit two-way kid. If he wanted to play linebacker at the next level, he could play linebacker at the next level.
Yeah.
Another thing to keep in mind. If a tight end can't block, he's probably not going to see the field for Jason Witten. Because you are talking about one of the nastiest tight ends that ever wore an NFL uniform. A guy that never shied away from doing all that the position demanded, including blocking.
True.
And he was very good at it. So as long as Jason Witten is running the operation in the tight end room at the University of Oklahoma, I can assure you the guys that will be seeing the field will be able to block. Jason Witten will make sure of that.
Let me ask you this about the recruiting services, too.
Yeah.
Would you be a 4-star tight end if you were a liability as a blocker?
I mean, transparently, I think the answer is yes. Because
I was starting to think that.
Yeah, there are positions. I think tight end and I think edge rusher are two positions where really raw, unpolished football players can wind up getting overranked, if you will, based on potential. Because the purpose of rankings, and to an extent it's kind of a misnomer, so many people think of rankings as, okay, here's the best 250, 300 high school football players in the country. We're trying to rank all the high school football players in the country, for how good they are right now. That's not the objective. the objective of the rankings is to project ahead to the NFL draft. And so oftentimes you will see these oversized specimens, if you will. Sometimes you get guys that are relatively new to the sport of football, haven't been playing it for very long, but they're 6'5", 235-pound mountains. And so they wind up getting shoehorned into the edge rusher position or the tight end position, and evaluators get really, really high on these guys because of the sheer athletic traits that are there and what they can become once developed at the collegiate level. So, yes, I would say it is altogether possible for a tight end who's a liability as a blocker to attain 4-star status, but here's what you can't hide, right? You can't hide that aspect of your game on film.
Yep.
And with as many eyes as will be watching the film in the building at Oklahoma, they're not going to go on a guy that they feel like is never going to be able to help them as a blocker.
Yeah. Texter in the 316, also the state of Kansas. Devon Mitchell was a 4-star, and the only place he wasn't a liability was the lunch table.
Yep, there you go. There's your token Devon Mitchell joke, your cursory Devon Mitchell joke for the day. A listener in the 806, that's the state of Texas, says, I think it's fair to say that Kanik may have been a much better blocker if he were given a few years of experience playing and learning to play the position. I agree with you, and that's probably the hope for Jaren Kanik at the next level is you're going to learn to block. If there's a team that calls his name on draft day, it's, man, you're going to get here. You're going to be a weapon as a pass catcher. We know that's what you're capable of being, but we're going to have to put a lot of effort into making you a better blocker because he wasn't a very good blocker.
And by the way, it's kind of unfair of us to assume that he would be perfect in all aspects of playing a position that he had never played before.
It's hard, man. It's hard. He did the stuff that you would expect a really outstanding athlete to be able to do. He struggled with the stuff that you would expect a guy who had been playing tight end for 9 months to struggle with. I think that's how you can adequately encapsulate the Jaren Kanik experience.
Yeah, was he an athlete? Yes. Did he struggle with the technical stuff? Probably should have been more expected.
Another Kansas listener said, what Kanik did in 1 year playing tight end was good, and he was a contributor and helped the team win. He should have been targeted more, but we had a quarterback that could not set his feet and threw sidearm.
People really hate the sidearm.
Yeah. John Mateer has some image rehabilitation to do,
and it's
with a certain segment of the Oklahoma fan base.
And it's funny because a lot of the better quarterbacks in the NFL right now throw sidearm.
At times.
I mean, you look at a guy like Matthew Stafford, for one.
Yeah.
He's gotten real good at it.
And there's something to be said for being able to vary the arm slots, right, and vary the release points. You just can't slip into throwing with that same motion every single time, which became a point of contention amongst the fan base when Michael Hawkins started against Kent State, remember? Because he's always been a guy that's excelled at dipping down low to get the ball out when he needs to, but there were a few too many throws that he slung sidearm in that game just for the sake of slinging a sidearm. And people, understandably, were asking, where did that come from? Why is he doing that? Brian from Maryland says, more concerned with his jump kick release. Okay, before we get too deep down in a rabbit hole of picking apart John Mateer's game.
Brian from Maryland, I agree.
KW the 918 says, the overall offensive recruiting has been good under BV, but the development has been the complete opposite. If that doesn't drastically improve, then it won't matter how well they recruit. There's some truth to that. The majority of the cornerstone contributors that Oklahoma's had all across the board during the Brent Venables era, at every single position, the majority of those guys have come to Oklahoma via the transfer portal. Dylan Gabriel, John Mateer at quarterback. Think about even Tawi Walker, he doesn't feel like a transfer, but he was. He was coming here. Eric Gray was a transfer. Obviously, Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock are homegrown, and we're going to have to see that pendulum swing in the next couple of years toward leaning on and being able to lean on guys that were recruited and developed out of high school by Oklahoma, because it's not super sustainable to be going back to the transfer portal year in and year out to fill voids at key positions offensively.
Yeah, no, it's not. But
it's a dangerous game to play.
It's a dangerous game, but you're able to play that game better when you know that the other side of the ball is locked down. So Brent is a defensive guy, defensive background. We all know this. The fact that he's got his side of the ball locked down, okay, now we can have some fluctuation on offense, and I'm okay with it. But, yes, that is something they're going to have to improve upon.
On the Seneca Driver front, Evan from Blanchard said, "These two-sport guys kill me. It rarely works. Remember Jaden Nickens?" Oh, yes, I remember Jaden Nickens.
How can you not remember Jaden Nickens?
Well, C.J. Nixon, right, was a guy that came to Oklahoma, and there have been so many guys over the years that have come to Oklahoma with the intention of playing both sports, and the coaches on both the football and the basketball staff have kind of sold him a bill of goods in that regard, told you, yeah, sure, we'll give you the opportunity to play both. And then, of course, they wind up being one-sport guys. Happened with C.J. Nixon, happened with Jacoby Johnson, happened with, deep cut here, Nathan Rollins Kabonge. Remember him? So I don't have the expectation that there's ever going to be another two-sport guy, at least not a football, basketball guy at Oklahoma. It's been 50 years. Like, is Dean the last one? Or, no, Ricky Brady. I think it's Ricky Brady. That was, late 80s, early 90s? It's been a long time since there was a football, basketball guy at the University of Oklahoma, and that's just not going to be the norm going forward, especially because of the continuing level of overlap that exists between those two seasons. But with Seneca Driver, as far as I can tell, he doesn't really have any serious aspirations of playing college basketball. He understands his future is in football, and that's what he's going to take the most seriously.
And he's just good at basketball.
Yeah, he's really good. Which, when you live in the state of Kentucky and you're 6'7",
yeah, that's also true.
Muscled up.
Uh-huh.
How can you not be good at basketball?
Yeah.
Right. 405-651-3439. One final segment is ahead here on Locked In. Hit us with your texts, questions, comments, opinions, feedback. We'll keep it rolling on the other side here on The Ref. The home of Sooner fans. Stay with us.
Dusty Dvorak here. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
Flu season is here, and getting sick was never in your game plan. When you're sidelined by illness, don't wait on a doctor's appointment and don't waste a trip to the ER. Get back in the lineup fast with same-day care from Norman Regional. With urgent care and walk-in clinics across Moore and Norman, they're always ready to make the right call. Already a Norman Regional patient? They've got your records on hand to draft up the winning play right when you need it. Find the clinic nearest to you at normanregional.com or dial 405-515-5000. Norman Regional Urgent Care and Walk-In Clinics. Open when you need it.
This is Jake Aldridge, partner at Aldridge Teasdale. We know accidents happen when you least expect them, but if you're injured, your path to recovery and justice starts with the right attorney by your side. At Aldridge Teasdale, we understand that every injury is personal and that every story matters. You deserve an advocate who will fight for you. But don't wait. If you need medical assistance, you need to get it now, and we can help you with access to the best doctors in Oklahoma. Call Aldridge Teasdale today, 405-447-HURT. That's 405-447-4878.
For 3 generations, the John M. Ireland and Son Funeral Home and Chapel in Moores continued to serve the community by giving back to local schools, charitable organizations, and first responders.
We provide pre-planning for funerals and cremation services at the most reasonable prices.
We are proud to be a family-owned and operated funeral home.
Award-winning funeral home year after year, our family believes in serving the people of our community.
I'm John Ireland.
And I'm Solon Daniels.
You've got our word on it.
My fiance is a veteran.
I did tours in Korea, Germany, and Bosnia before I got injured.
When Yusuf got out of the military, he needed help getting his disability benefits.
Luckily, DAV came to the rescue. They fought for me the same way that I fought for my country.
Every year, DAV provides life-changing support to more than 1 million veterans.
My victory is never giving up and finding more ways to serve.
He's pretty amazing.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Yo, I'm your old basketball. Haven't seen you out on the courts in a while. Why not pass me over to Goodwill? Donating me helps Goodwill's mission to provide career training and support services right here in the community. And that's a slam dunk. Donate today. Hey, I got next.
To find your nearest Goodwill locations and to learn more about our mission, please visit goodwill.org. Goodwill, where your things start new lives.
Maybe it was a family vacation or a school field trip. But there you were, standing in awe at a national park. We are the National Park Foundation, and together with you, we're creating a future where every person, every generation, gets their chance at an unforgettable moment. Today, tomorrow, forever. Learn more at nationalparks.org/foundation.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Here's a little nugget for you. Grayson Singleton heading into our final segment here on Locked In. I don't think it's going to be too terribly long before Oklahoma gets on the board in the 2028 recruiting class. So that's something to stay cognizant of in the days ahead. 13 commits already in 2027. Probably not going to be all too long before the 2028 commits start coming. Back to the text line, 405-651-3439. A 918 listener says, I'm wondering about the recruitment of offensive lineman Gus Corsair. Thanks. Yeah, let's talk about it. Gus Corsair of Hayes, Kansas. Never played with Jaron Kanek. A little bit too young to have played with Jaron Kanek, but hails from the same high school in the same town as Jaron Kanek. There is a decent chance. You know what? There's more than a decent chance. I would say there's a strong chance right now that Oklahoma's next 2027 commit is Gus Corsair. He is scheduled to visit Norman this weekend. The Sooners are having a few visitors in town. It's not like an enormous junior day, the likes of which they're going to have on March the 7th with Future Freaks. But they've got a few important visitors in town. They'll have many of the commits in town to help recruit their peers. Cooper Hackett and Caden Penny are going to be coming in town. Gus Corsair is a high priority this weekend for Oklahoma. They would love to be able to seal the deal. And this is a kid that Oklahoma found very early on. They were the first school to start recruiting Gus Corsair. They were not the first to offer, but the kid and his family will attest Oklahoma was hitting them up before any school in America, which is a feat, Grayson, because he's from the state of Kansas. And kids from the state of Kansas almost always, with very few exceptions, get on the radar for Kansas and Kansas State first because it's a priority for those schools. Those schools, their lifeblood is in-state recruiting and always has been.
Yeah.
So they are all over Sunflower State talent. They are almost always first to the table. You remember Lincoln Cure, for instance? Lincoln Cure, who became a 5-star in the 2025 class at the tight end position. The reason Kansas State was able to sign a 5-star like Lincoln Cure was because they had stumbled upon him before anybody else did, all the way out in Goodland, Kansas. So for Oklahoma to have been hitting up Gus Corsair before either of the in-state programs caught on to the hidden gem that lay out there in the western portion of the state at Hayes High School, that speaks volumes for Oklahoma as a staff. And it does suggest that if the current trend holds, assuming Oklahoma doesn't screw this up, they should be on track to add this kid as soon as this weekend, potentially.
Yeah, and Gus Corsair, he's a nasty one. I'll tell you that watching his film. He's going to run over you, and he finishes blocks. And, a lot of our text line contributors and our listening audience asks a lot of questions about where's the nastiness on the offensive line. It's been a running theme ever since I came on board at the station, and you want some nastiness, Gus Corsair will deliver that for sure. He's a fun one to watch. I'll tell you that.
Mean son of a gun.
Yes, he is. He's huge too.
Mm-hmm. Oklahoma, as I have mentioned before, would like to wrap up their offensive line class in the 2027 cycle with Gus Corsair and with Tyson Ross, another native Kansan from Andover, which is a suburb of Wichita. So just about 2.5 hours up the road. It's close, probably like within a dozen miles or so. And I would have to fact check this, but for kids in the Wichita area, depending on where in Wichita they live, sometimes it is the case that Oklahoma is the closest P4 school to home for them. It's either that, Oklahoma State, or Kansas State. Like the three are very close in proximity. And obviously between the three, Oklahoma's got more prestige than Kansas State or Oklahoma State. So if you're looking for the status-seeking type kids, the kids that want to compete at the highest level, if presented with those three options close to home, the majority of them are going to be preferential to Oklahoma. The Waffler wants to know, how big is Gus Corsair? About 6'3", 295 pounds.
Is that what he's up to now?
Yes.
So before the season started, just to give you an idea of how he's trending, before the season started, he was listed at 285. So, good sign right there.
There you go. So he'll be north of 300 by the time he gets to Oklahoma, and he's going to play center. Oklahoma's been very clear, very explicit about their vision for him. They want him to play center. They want him to be their center. They like Tyson Ross at guard. Obviously, they like Caden Penny at guard. They have Cooper Hackett and Luke Wilson committed to play the tackle spot. So they have an entire offensive line, literally to a man, an entire offensive line that could potentially wind up in the 2027 class.
Excellent, especially after you took, 2 offensive linemen in the 26 class?
Was that all it was?
Yeah,
I guess that was.
Deacon Schmidt and
Noah Best. It was just those two. Lost out on Noah Abibi at the last minute to Houston. Also, apparently, I'm an idiot. A listener in Kansas says Manhattan is significantly closer to Wichita than Norman. Okay, hand up. I said something stupid. Thank you for correcting me. I will take your word for it as someone that is texting in from a Kansas area code. But 2.5 hours up the road to Wichita, or rather 2.5 hours down the road to Norman, not a huge obstacle for a kid like Tyson Ross. So Oklahoma's very well positioned in that recruitment, and that should remain the case moving forward. He's scheduled to visit for Future Freaks on March 7th, and that is shaping up to be the type of weekend, Grayson Singleton, where Oklahoma could rattle off several commitments. If Oklahoma were in the neighborhood of 20 pledges by, let's say, 2 weeks after Future Freaks, I would not be shocked. Would not be shocked one bit. A listener in Texas says, the nastiness question is why I think EPL could be the most important player on the team next season. Yeah, that boy's nasty. Ain't no question about it. He plays mean, he plays angry. He's going to be your starting left guard in 2026. Circling back around, Johnny from UConn wanted to know a little bit earlier in the show, what happened with Ahmad Hudson? We just bowed out of that one. Ahmad Hudson is a 5-star tight end out of Ruston, Louisiana. That is a 2-sport kid, football and basketball. He wants to play both sports at the next level. And his recruitment for a matter of months now has been primarily a battle between two schools. It's LSU and it's Nebraska. He really likes Nebraska. And he's a Louisiana kid, so LSU is going to be heavy in the mix as well. I don't think Oklahoma just bowed out. I think there was a recognizance on Oklahoma's part that there just wasn't a ton of traction there. And it's probably too late at this point. Even with Jason Witten replacing Joe John Finley as tight ends coach, it's probably too late to get re-involved to the point where you can be mentioned in the same breath out of Ahmad Hudson's mouth as Nebraska and LSU. So I fully expect he's going to wind up at one of those two schools. Which of those two he winds up at, who's to say right now? I actually would lean Nebraska if you made me guess. Elsewhere on the text line, a 405 listener asks, how do we like Wyatt Gilmore this coming year? Is he going to get some playing time? That's one of those guys you're going to want to keep an ear to the ground for throughout the offseason. Because it's pretty reasonable to expect that outside of Taylor Wine and P.J. Adibawara, I would say, projects as the other starter at defensive end. Outside of those two and Danny Okoye, there's going to be somebody, whether it's Wyatt Gilmore or whether it's C.J. Nixon or one of the true freshmen, Jay Krell, Daniel Norman, whoever it might be, somebody's going to play their way into the rotation. It's just a question of who that's going to be. I could offer you no more than a guess right now as to who that is.
But it's interesting you bring that up because there was another question on the text line from the 405. Who do you guys predict will be the next Taylor Wine? Talking about a guy who, could take a leap in year 2, year 3.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a couple of different directions you could go with that conversation. The next Taylor Wine in terms of production, in terms of the quality and quantity of his production, in that room I would bet on Danny Okoye. However, if what you mean by the next Taylor Wine is a guy that massively outpaces expectations at Oklahoma, I would say that guy is Alex Shieldknight. Would it shock anybody, given that C.J. Nixon and Wyatt Gilmore and Jake Krell and Daniel Norman and Matthew Nelson were all blue-chip prospects and very highly regarded out of high school? Would it shock anybody if those guys became big-time players down the line for Oklahoma? No, I don't think so. But Taylor Wine certainly put together a far more spectacular highlight reel in 2025 than anybody anticipated coming into the year. And I'm not saying Alex Shieldknight is going to approach or mirror that level of production over the course of his career in Norman. But if there's a guy that maybe this year, maybe next, plays himself into the rotation somewhat surprisingly and is a pleasant eye-opener for the fan base, I like Shieldknight. I've always liked Shieldknight, man. He's an easy guy to like. Good human being.
It's a hell of a name, too.
Yeah, and it is a heck of a name. Like, you hope a dude like Shieldknight becomes a force on your defense,
right?
If only for the intimidation factor.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's pretty wide open in that defensive end room, man. And I think that's by design. Like, Oklahoma didn't make any additions there in the portal. It's not out of the question that you could see Kenny Ozawalu taking snaps at defensive end. But outside of PJ, outside of Taylor Wine, and Danny Okoye as well, there's going to be some margin there for one of those younger guys, whoever it may be, to make an impact for this team next season. A 918 listener asked, remind me of the recruit of 1 or 2 years ago, came from England. What is his status? Just curious. Yeah, you're thinking of Daniel Akinkunmi. Offensive guard. He'll be in the 2 deep this year. Feel like I can safely assert that. He'll be in the 2 deep. He may push for a starting role at right guard. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Now, that would be contingent upon Ryan Foje playing right tackle. If Amarian Harris ends up Oklahoma's starting right tackle, that kicks Foje inside to right guard, and at that point, Heath Ozaida and Daniel Akinkunmi and everybody else not named Eddie Pierre-Louis that plays guard is riding pine. But if Ryan Foje is your starting right tackle, then I think there will be a battle at right guard between Heath Ozaida and Daniel Akinkunmi and perhaps a guy like Peyton Joseph And Marion Harris can play inside as well.
Basically, what you're saying is they've got versatile depth.
That they do. Good place to be, right?
Yeah.
Good place to be
Solid
with your
place to
offensive
be.
line group. All right, folks. That is going to bring us to the end of yet another outstanding installment of Locked In. Hopefully you enjoyed coming along for the ride with us. Whether on the KREF app, the terrestrial radio airwaves, or YouTube, thanks for making us part of your Thursday. We'll do it all again tomorrow, I should say. Same time, same place. The Rush is next. Stay right here.